PRs. So yeah, show of hands, how many of you guys review code? Okay, that's a lot. How many of you guys have used CodeRabbit or heard of it? Okay, that's pretty good. So yeah, we're a Series A company. We're growing non-linearly, and we've been around for about 2 years, which in this space, as my colleague jokes, is like being in the 20 years in a normal business. So yeah, and we have a lot of companies using us. We have 7,000 plus paying customers, and we have 100,000 plus open source repos that are using us. And we work with all major Git platforms, GitHub, GitLab, etc. So yeah, the problem statement is with all these new code gen tools coming out, developer speed is at an all-time high. People are putting up PRs, they're vibe coding stuff, and then the other people on the team have to review all that code. It's very difficult, it's a bottleneck. So we're trying to step in and use AI to actually help with the code reviews and automatically verify the code, provide suggestions. We find bugs, we provide suggestions for refactoring, and we have, I'll show you further as well, but we integrate with major platforms like Linear, Jira, provide context from that as well. And yeah, so this slide is about how we fit in with code generation tools. So I would say that we work very cooperatively with code gen tools. So you can use Cursor, you can use Cloud Code to write your code, and then you'll put up a PR, and then CodeRabbit will automatically review the PR. And as I'll show you in a minute in the demo, CodeRabbit will give you optimized prompts that you can paste back into your code gen tool. So you can quickly iterate back and forth using that technique. So yeah, that's, I would say that I want to emphasize, I think that we are cooperative with these tools, and we're an addition to them. So context engineering. So this is a lot of the secret sauce behind what we do at CodeRabbit. This is how we make our reviews intelligent. So to briefly explain context engineering, at a base level, when you're using CodeGen, you have prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is like optimizing the single prompts that you feed into the LLM and asking it to structure the reply in certain ways, things like that. Context engineering is like bringing in context from a problem space and enriching your prompts with that context. So here we have this is all of the things that we do to enrich our context. So we first clone, on every PR, we first clone the repo into a GCP sandbox. Within that sandbox, we can run shell scripts, linters, etc. And we as well have code graph analysis. So code graph analysis it basically constructs a new code graph at every PR, and it looks in the diff of the PR at all of the changed file hunks, and it matches those to the Git history of what files were frequently changed in the Git history. So the idea of the code graph is to do something like impact analysis, where you're trying to understand how the changes in the PR are going to impact the code base as a whole. And then this third point, I mentioned this briefly earlier, we have native integrations with Linear, Jira. So CodeRabbit can see your issues. It can create a new issue, it can resolve an issue. Path-based, AST-based instructions. So this means that in our UI, which I'll show you in a moment, you can configure custom instructions for certain file types, basically. For instance, if you want to ignore a file type, you can configure it there. Open and pass PRs. This is a bit of what I was saying with the code graph, but yes, we reference past commits. We also reference past PRs. 40 plus linters, yes. We run these on every PR. This is how we're able to catch a lot of security issues. And web query, so yeah, we can do web searches as part of this as well. And past learnings, so this is our knowledge base. So the way you integrate with this is you basically just chat with CodeRabbit on a PR and teach it something, and then it will store that in VectorDB, and then it will pull up the relevant learnings during PR review and during PR chat as well. Code agent guidelines, this is a YAML file that you can include in your repo that will have custom instructions for various things, more path instructions and guidelines. And then MCP client, this is a new feature that's currently in early access. Basically, so maybe brief intro to MCP is basically Model Context Protocol. It's basically like an API that's meant for LLMs specifically. So it's just a protocol for LLMs to use the API. So MCP client means that we are acting as a client and we're communicating with MCP servers. So you can add MCP servers through our UI, and then we will use those during the review. So we have native integrations with Linear and Jira, but let's say you wanted to integrate with Notion. You can use the Notion MCP server, and then CodeRabbit will look at your Notion documents and try to find relevant information that's relevant to the review from those. And yeah, so this is basically just showing, we have a few steps in the, oh, sorry, you had a question?
Just real quick. So you mentioned like it can suggest a refactor. Would you be setting like in the code agent guidelines, like how aggressive it is or how strict it is?
Yeah.
With the...
Yeah, we have tone instructions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can even make it silly. Like you can tell it to like be a pirate. It's just LM tone instructions.
Awesome.
Was that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. That can be very team specific. Maybe some people want concise answers.
Oh, I guess I mean more like how aggressively does it want to move your code base? I guess maybe that would be kind of tone.
Yeah, we have like style guidelines as well, and you can also point CodeRabbit at your like Claude MD, for example, or cursor rules, for example. So if you have those in your repo, CodeRabbit will look at those and it will pay attention to those. So yeah, those can all inform the review. Yeah, like that's all context that's pulled into the review agent. So yeah, the review agent basically just pulls in all of that stuff that I just mentioned. It's agentic, it's calling multiple LLMs. We use all the major LLMs. It can execute tools and web queries and shell scripts as it sees fit. And then after that, we actually have a review agent, verification agent step, in which we are filtering and basically auditing the review agent. So yeah, if the review agent suggests something that is a hallucination, then the verification agent will likely catch it. And I think this two-step process is a really good way to help with hallucinations and things. And then we post on the PR. So now I have some demos. So first of all, I will show you the UI. So here we have a bunch of repos. So you can go into here and you can click repo settings, and you can configure all of these settings per repo. I'll just show you the org level settings. It's the same thing, but it's org level. So these settings apply to all repos. So here we have some path instructions. So in our example, we have TS for TypeScript, and then we have a bunch of things that we want to apply to TypeScript. we have auto review. So this configures. This is how you turn on or off the automatic PR review. You can also trigger a PR review just by saying CodeRabbit, please review. You can tag the bot in comments to ask it to do things. And we have the labels here. So basically, the explanation of the labels is that, like, let's say you only want CodeRabbit to review new feature PRs, for example, I don't know, or just PRs with some specific label, then it will only be enabled for those labels. So that's just for team-specific customization. Tools, this shows a lot of the lint tools that we have here. So you can actually upload config files specific to the specific tools here, and you can enable or disable specific tools. So you can kind of mess with this and customize it. And pre-merge checks. So this feature basically blocks the PR if the PR violates any user inputted check that must be true. So right now we have, so for example, like we have pull request title, and then there's some requirements. So you can say like the title must be long, I don't know. But this is, we have early access for pre-merge checks. We're updating it to have actually custom prompt input. So this whole UI will basically just be prompt inputs. So you can guide the pre-merge, like, yeah, like we'll have a review that's basically, or an agentic loop that goes after the verification loop and checks all the pre-merge checks basically. And it will be able to look at MCP, it'll be able to do everything that the verification loop can do. So with this, so for example, let's say, let's say you want, as a pre-merge check, you want to check the linear issue and you want to make sure that this PR doesn't change anything that's not related to the linear issue. Like the PR has to only do the linear issue specifications. So the pre-merge check can say, use the MCP server to check linear to make sure that the PR only changes relevant things. And then if it fails, then it will block the merge, and you can't merge it without override at that point. Yeah, and then.
Can you use this to check for like if somebody's handling PII correctly or something? Can you use it for like
Is PII like personal info or something like that? Yeah. Yeah.
With a custom check.
Yeah, you can do that as well. Yeah. And so knowledge base. This shows the. This is the learnings that I was talking about earlier. So when you chat with CodeRabbit, it will generate learnings, and it will use those learnings in the future. And code generation, yeah. So we have unit test generation as well. And yep. So I will show some example PRs. So this first PR kind of just shows the overview. So every time we post a review, we have a walkthrough comment. The walkthrough summarizes the change. It gives kind of a chart. It shows the file-specific changes. So you can quickly learn about the PR from here. We always generate a sequence diagram, show the changes. And we have assessment against linked issues. So this is like the native linear integration, so we can see that these issues were addressed. And then we always generate this poem. It's just a fun poem. You can turn this off in the settings if you want to, but some people like this and some people don't. And then, yeah, finishing touches. So this is what I was just referencing earlier. So if you like click these checkboxes, you can create a PR with unit tests or generate doc strings for your PR, stuff like that. And we're adding new stuff as well to finishing touches. And then this PR example is showing the MCP client. So it posts the review comment. You can see here in the additional context used, we did some MCP research and we found this linear issue that was relevant. So I'll just click on the linear issue. This was just something I made as a quick test. So I just said, we need to add some TypeScript helper functions in a file called helper.ts. The file should not include calculate sum because this exists elsewhere in our code base. And the PR here is just adding helper to an empty repo. And then, yeah, so then here's the review. It says, remove calculate sum function. It violates organizational constraints. According to the linear issue, this function should not be included because it already exists elsewhere. And then this is something I want to talk about as well. Prompt for AI agents. I think I mentioned this earlier. This is a concise prompt you can copy and paste into whatever code gen tool that you want to, and it will address the comment. So we include these for all of the comments, and I use this all the time. I think it's really useful to just quickly go back and forth on that. And let me show the IDE review as well. So we have VS Code /cursor extension right here. So you can just install us right here on the extensions. And then the idea with the IDE review, it's reviewing your local changes. So I'll just get started with the review here. So it reviews the local changes that I have, and it's different than the PR review because the PR review is always on basically, like it's automatic for any PRs coming into a repo. But the IDE review is kind of just like a local thing that, it's just if you want to like keep things within your IDE basically. And so yeah, I started a couple of reviews. We can check back on those in a minute. Look at more things. So here's an example of someone commenting like custom instructions for the review. So they said, please do a full review and please perform, or please focus on these things. And then here's the CodeRabbit reply. So like they said, security vulnerabilities, performance issues, code quality. So then we see that CodeRabbit analyzed each of those things in a comment. Yeah, and then this one. This one is showing learnings. So this user said, no, we changed that. Now we want to get rid of the star imports because CodeRabbit had said it's recommended to use wildcard import, but they said we don't want to use that. So then it says new learnings added. The Artemis project now prefers to avoid wildcard imports and instead use explicit imports. So yeah, this learning will be saved into like vector DB, and then when CodeRabbit is looking at like import file diffs that have import statements in them, it can search the code in the learnings and see that there's a rule about imports, so then it can reference that here. And I believe this is showing just a bug fix. So yeah, there's hard-coded password reset, and then again the prompt for AI agents, so you can just quickly fix that there. And let me see this. this one? This last one shows web query. So CodeRabbit actually searched this web query. It said, what are the latest versions of the AI SDK/Anthropic and AI packages? Are there any known security issues? And then it got the result. And then it uses that to inform the review. And so I'll show the UI a little bit more. So here in the integrations tab, we have the native integrations that are like Jira, Linear, Circle CI, and then we have the MCP servers. So here you can just add any MCP server that you want to. You just need the URL of the MCP server, or if it needs an API token, then then it will detect that, and you can just input your API token right here, API key, sorry, right here. And so we have a few ones that we've been testing with here. We found that Context 7 is a very good starter one because, I mean, it doesn't even require an account or anything, and it just pulls in a bunch of context. And then we have these other ones here. So yeah, and the linear MCP is what I demoed a moment ago. It showed the linear issue. And now let's check the code review. So yeah, it seems like we're still in progress on this one. This one has found a few issues. So I can, and so this, what am I in? Yeah, so this is showing in cursor. So I click through the issues here. So this says there's a security issue with the, oh, and by the way, sorry, this code is meant to have a lot of bugs in it. So I wrote bad code on purpose here. So there's a security issue with database URL and misleading encryption method. What's another one? This says don't expose sensitive credentials in config template. Potential prototype pollution vulnerability and update config. Vulnerable prototype pollution. So with any of these issues, we can use this fix with AI button. So this is similar to the prompts that you can copy from the website, or from the PR, sorry. But this one just integrates directly into your IDE. So we have it integrated with Cursor here. Yeah. So yeah, you can just paste it quickly into your coding agent. It'll fix it for you. This one is still showing under review. I will quickly switch back to the branch in which the review is completed. Okay, so I have a previous review here. It shows a bunch of issues, and this is showing in VS Code. So in VS Code, when you click the Fix with AI button, it will integrate with GitHub Copilot, just right there. And we're having an internet issue on that one. But yeah. So the IDE review is actually free. So you can try that out. And the PR review is the one that we're pricing. It's a bit more complex with what it does, and it runs on every single PR in the repo, so it's good for like a whole team. And yeah, so that's the demo. And then this is showing real data from customers. So yeah, time to first code review is faster, number of PRs per month is more, time to merge PRs is faster, percentage of forced merges is less. And yeah, so you can get a 14-day free trial. And I mentioned that open source is free. So if you have an open source project, please use us. And the IDE review is free as well. So you can try that out as well. And yeah, please try us out. And yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Please come by our booth for stickers. Thank you. Oh yeah, and Q&A.
Thanks, Avery. Thanks for the great demo. Happy to take some questions, but I'll just quickly follow up on the couple of things you had asked. So yeah, you saw that we have a learnings from chat. It's a very human-like chat, right? You can literally provide it feedback. If you see that the refactor suggestions are too aggressive, you can tell it, don't give me refactor suggestions in this repo completely at all, or just reduce the frequency of the refactor suggestions. And your second one was, oh, PII. Yeah, so certain PII, it will detect automatically. The best practices are already baked in to how we do the checks. There's the linters and there's certain built-in practices that we already check for. Beyond those, if you want something specific to your team, to your org. As Avery showed, we have the code guidelines, so you can specify in natural language. Always make sure that there is no human name or address or something in the code. Thank you. Question in the back.
Thank you. I have a rather silly question. So your review can generate AI prompt automatically. So what happens if you run this AI prompt and improve code and run the code review again and run the generate AI prompt again and keep looping it? So will the code improve, or at some point it will degenerate?
AI agents talking to AI agents talking to AI agents talking to AI agents talking to AI agents. No, I think it's just going to be extremely dependent upon the code in itself. Normally, if you found all the issues in the first attempt and you fix them, normally the next review shouldn't bring up any critical changes. It should have found everything in the first go. Any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you for the demo. How are you thinking of using your tool versus just doing development within, say, Windsurf or Cursor, and that tool, the IDE itself, would provide the help for you to hopefully do bug-free development without having to resort to something like CodeRabbit, which comes afterwards?
No, completely understand. I get that question all the time. Two reasons. One is philosophical, one is more engineering. The more philosophical answer is, let's forget that AI coding existed, 5 years ago, 7 years ago. We were never having people self-certify their review, right? The developer and the reviewer were always different for a very good reason. Even though they had access to the same code base, they might also just have the same level of software engineering knowledge, because just the review nature is such that a different entity that is not biased by how the code was generated will find more bugs. That's the benefit of just having an independent entity that was not constrained by your code generation architecture. The second thing is, we do have our focus purpose built on the code review space. The founders of CodeRabbit were engineering managers, just when GPT launched 2.5 years ago, whatever it was, and their job was get more features out faster. That was their KPI. Now, coding faster should intuitively lead to more features being shipped out. But they weren't seeing that in their teams. And I've seen the conversation on the socials on, Twitter and Threads and LinkedIn change to people, developers now saying the best part of coding is moving away from them, and they're just left with all the PRs to review when the coding agents are doing all the fun part. Put another way, the bottleneck was always code reviews. That bottleneck got worsened with AI coding agents producing code faster, unless you're just putting code into production without ever verifying it, and that Replit database issue can happen. For those who might not have seen it, there was a big thing where a production database was just deleted completely by an AI coding agent. And so we've been laser focused on the code review space. What we've tried to mimic with our context engineering approach is how would a senior developer have gone about reviewing a complicated PR, right? If they just come in and if they just look at the lines of code and they'll leave the feedback, that's only a partial review. You need to understand what the user intent is behind the PR, behind the code review. You need to understand what your architectural requirements are. You need to understand if it's a feature level PR. You need to understand what the PRD is. What are the requirements in the PRD? That's an in-depth comprehensive review. And we believe we are the only tool that has that level of context engineering built in, because we've been a scrappy startup, 75 to 80 people, expecting to raise our Series B funding soon enough. So just focused on this so I can execute faster. Oh, on that note, we are also hiring basically across every job function. If you go to CodeRabbit.ai, you'll see our career section, every engineering, every sales, marketing, biz dev role. Any other questions here?
My question is it somehow possible to measure the code coverage when you're doing the review?
You mean how much code has been reviewed by CodeRabbit?
No, like a unit test coverage.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yes, unit test coverage is there. So we do, you can ask CodeRabbit, go evaluate my existing unit tests and make recommendations if I need to update my unit tests because of the new PR, and then CodeRabbit will make that recommendation. That feature is currently in early access, but we are expecting to GA that in the next month.
Thank you.
Let's go over there once. Let's go there once in the back just to make sure we cover. But we will get back to you, sir.
How do you measure the quality of your code review?
Excellent question. If I had a penny for that every time I was asked, I would be able to afford a condo in SF by now. No, it's indirectly by the number of comments that are accepted. If we have left 100 comments and 50 of those were accepted, there are potentially bugs, there are serious issues that developers care about. We absolutely do not expect that 70%, 80% comments will ever be accepted, because sometimes the comments are more nitpicky in nature, and you can configure some of these. Sometimes the developers just don't want a certain type of feedback. We generally see somewhere between 40% to 60% on an average that the comments are accepted.
Follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you measure how many comments you missed?
That is a very hard thing, because then somebody else has to come and set the benchmark,
Sure.
right?
I mean, that's how we measure it, right? I mean,
So that
hired many code reviewers. So
that will be no. It's a great point, but that will come from the human reviewer. If the human reviewer can come in and say, okay, I did a analysis, and if I had done the review, I would have found 70 issues, and CodeRabbit only found 30. But what we actually find is the other way around. When we talk to our customers, and the customers say, almost always CodeRabbit, the AI is finding more hidden edge cases than the human will find. So the human, and we've run these evals internally, like when we do the evals for each of the benchmarks, and we've done that with GPT-5 that's coming out. It's been 15% better than GPT-4 and O3 and any of the other models. And so we have our standard benchmarks. We ask our engineers to review it without using CodeRabbit, without using any tools, and almost always the AI finds more issues. Yeah, getting back over here.
Yeah, I guess there are kind of two things. Maybe to piggyback off of that, it's like the stat of how many sevs end up in production with this tool for the PRs versus like other best practices or standard practices.
Yeah, I haven't compared against other tools, so to speak, but CodeRabbit on its own is always around 50%, give or take, in that range of the comments that we provide that make it to production. We've had competitive bake-offs against other tools, and when it is in a PR that is complicated enough, maybe it has cross-system dependencies. Your code is perfectly fine, there is no bug in it, but unless you do that kind of code graph analysis that we do, you're simply not going to identify that there was a downstream dependency that this code change is going to break. That is something that we believe only we have built the code graph dependencies and other things like web queries and the MCP integration. They find other more complicated issues. So while we haven't done a engineering level analysis that is public, during the bake-offs, as the PR is complicated enough, the customers do come back and say, CodeRabbit found more issues. In all honesty, they also say your feedback is very verbose, and that is by design. A lot of the other tools have shorter, quick feedback. As you saw when Avery just initiated the review does take 4 to 5 minutes, and that's by design, because we are collecting all this information before we even throw anything at the LLM. And we are intelligently, recursively pinging the LLMs. We back off, we understand what the feedback came in, we go gather more context, we ping again, we back off, do the analysis again, gather more context if it's needed, and then ping again. So the agent can do that up to 10 times before it posts the comment back. So we intentionally take a longer time to review. The comments are more verbose. Usually we will find more issues and comments and other tools, but I don't have a number whether that's going to be 10% more or 20% more.
Deal. And I feel self-conscious actually to ask one more.
Go for it.
Everyone. But to kind of piggyback off of the other two comments, or the other two questions, it's almost like, and even just thinking about the back and forth of Cursor talking to your agent, is there any push to just have an agent that just focuses on minimizing compute, and one agent that just focuses on refactoring code, and one agent that focuses on like all of the different aspects of quality code all being handled by individual agents? Or is it better to just have one big agent that's pushing back on Cursor, or is it better to have smaller agents? I don't know, just kind of
this might be something that you know, Avery, and keep me honest. Internally, we do actually have a multi-agent architecture, but the user isn't exposed to it. The user is just exposed to one data point of CodeRabbit, but internally, I believe we do have different agents that handle those different scenarios, yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Last question in the interest of time. We will be over here, but maybe last question in the interest of time.
So I'm very impressed that when the CodeRabbit generates a review, it is perfect, that AI prompt can remove that issue completely. And also CodeRabbit is generating more hidden edgy comments than human. So I'm curious, in the testimony, they say they removed one human reviewer from 2 reviewers. Then I wonder what might be the unique perspective only human can provide compared to this CodeRabbit review. Why?
It's more that we don't want to get sued. So we do not recommend to remove all humans.
No. I mean, did you find any kind of role or perspective change of the remaining reviewers?
No, I'm being honest. I was being somewhat silly, but we do not want to remove humans from the loop. Previously, customers reported that they would have the developer that opened the PR, and then 2 developers review the code. Now, CodeRabbit can be the first reviewer, but we still want a second human reviewer to come and accept the changes. We do not recommend click, let CodeRabbit identify and fix, and no human ever reviews it. AI is not at that level of capability. So we want to recommend always let CodeRabbit do the first pass, but always come and consciously acknowledge that you're accepting the CodeRabbit feedback.
Yeah, that's a very ethical. But my question is, what is the failure cases that CodeRabbit failed and human reviewer caught the issue? So can you tell me the failure?
Yeah, they can be more like stylistic, and sometimes it's not going to be something as simple as a storage bucket that's exposed publicly. No, it's going to be more stylistic guide. The code was supposed to have followed the latest JavaScript style guide, but it did not. Well, did you inform CodeRabbit that we should have validated it against that or not? If you did not tell CodeRabbit, make sure my JavaScript style guide is recommendations are incorporated in the code. If we don't know that, we won't validate for it. It might be in your head, but you haven't told that to us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was lovely. We'll hang out here and happy to take more questions during the rest of the evening. Thanks, Avery.
Thank you, Avery. Thank you, Sahil. Before we move on to the next talk, just letting you know the food will be here by 7:15 to 7:20 or 7:30. All right, let's hear it for Dan from backboost.ai.
Hey, I'm Dan. I'm the CEO of backboost.ai. Okay, what do we do? So here's the parents' explanation. We sell AI training data. Okay, here's the developer explanation. We have an API for selling AI training data, so you can just query what you want. But anyhow, this tech talk is exploring the old school art of co-location. So it's a bit of a different topic. And so just for context here, we're like a pre-seed startup. So we're 2 founders. We don't have any employees. We're just 2 people. And we can't really afford AWS. So what do we do? So we're going to explore that in this talk. So here's the problem. Like today's workloads, it's more really compute heavy, right? You need really beefy compute. Like we don't really have that old school like Rails workload where you could just shove it on like a $10 server and maybe you have a beefier database box, but your like app server can just run on a cheap box, you know? So that's the thing is like this modern workload, you need really beefy chips, CPU, RAM. So that's the thing. So yeah, the problem, right? Like, okay, I found this box, AWS box is about comparable specs to what I want. It's like a U-free TB1.56x large or whatever. Okay, so yeah, you get 224 vCPU, so that's not even a real CPU core. It's like a SMT thread. You get 3 terabytes of RAM. You also get a virtual hard drive, EBS, elastic block storage, virtual. It could be on another server. $20K a month. Maybe if you have a 1-year contract, maybe like $12K a month, but it's a lot. Like, do I want to spend $120K a year on 1 server? No. Okay. What's the solution? The solution is we built our own box. It costs $10,000 and we put cool stickers on it. And it also costs only $300 a month with WoW Rack co-location, and that gets us 6 rack units. So this is a business up in Tukwila, Washington, and basically they're like, here, you can put your server in our facility, our independent data center. So that's what co-location is. Like, you don't have to use AWS, you can use Colo. Okay, let's move forward. So why Colo? And so one of the key things is like, okay, like look here, right? Like if you put the server in your own house, right? What happens when the power goes off? Your service is down, you're screwed. Like unless you have uninterruptible power supply and diesel Jenny backup. So it's like, this is why Colo is good. It gives you this, reliability. Okay, what does a build your own server look like? So here's like a rough server that matches that AWS box that costs $20K a month. So key fact, only 40,000, roughly the same specs. So basically it pays for itself under 6 months, right? But you have to build this with your own parts, right? Because like, and most people aren't gonna do that. Okay, so let's talk about cloud sadness. Why is elastic block storage not really a good system? And so the key thing is that your drives, you're like, are over the network. So you're paying a massive amount of latency. Like basically you have 1 millisecond latency for your reads and writes, give or take. But then if you have like a physical NVMe drive on your own server, it's only 100 microseconds of latency. So it's like, so basically 10x more latency when you use AWS. And the second part is like, what if you have a lot of reads and writes, like a lot? Okay, so that EBS bandwidth, even across all the volumes, like you could only get 2.3 gigabytes per second. But if you had physical NVMe drives, you get 24 gigabytes of bandwidth per second. So it's just a lot better. Let's say you have a really high performance database. Just build your own box. Like, why pay the cloud tax? Okay, cloud sadness, part 2, virtual CPUs. Okay, so like, it's a virtual machine, right? So you don't even get exclusive access to the CPU cores. Like each CPU core typically has 2 threads, it's SMT2. So yeah, like you're not getting exclusive access to the cache. Okay, here's the analogy. So imagine you're like a junior developer, right? Like who here was a junior developer at once? Come on, everyone, right? And so you're making like, what, 120K, San Francisco, and you have like 5 roommates. So this is the analogy. It's like dirty dishes, right? Like you're basically, you could have like 5 other roommates on this physical server, right? So it's like a virtual machine. And they're all using your cache, right? So that cache is quite precious when you have a high performance application. Because like if you look at like L3 on a modern chip, you only have like 1 gigabyte of that on the latest like AMD chips. And then if you look at L2 per core, you have about like 1 megabyte. And then L1, that's even less. So, and everyone's just trying to use it, right? So it's kind of like a dirty dishes problem. It's just you're sharing all the pots and pans and you're just fighting over it. Okay, so what technologies made all this possible, right? And so it really goes back to like server racks. And so the standard 19-inch rack, it was invented 1922, AT&T Western Electric. Basically they had the problem of like, oh, we have all this telecom equipment, you know, just like really old-timey. But the problem is like, what are you gonna do with, like, how are you gonna like put that all consistently? And so that's what they came up at AT&T with their engineers, is just have a standardized rack so we can just rack our equipment. And so by the 60s, this got standardized. And so it even created a new unit of measure. So the rack unit, or the U, so it's just 1.75 inches. So standard rack, 42 U's tall. Typical server, like 2 U's, and if you want a GPU server, typically 4 U's. Okay, I just made like a SVG with ChatGPT, and the person turned out really funny, but like it's just a 6 foot tall person. That's how tall the rack is. And then it's like 19 inches, so like, and then depth 36 inches. So just imagine that in your head. That's like what a rack is sized. Okay, how do you build your own server? And so, okay, quick question to the crowd. How many of you have built a PC just from parts? Okay, raise your hands. Okay, a lot of people. So it's very similar, and I'm just gonna highlight really what's the difference. And so the main thing is that you need a rack mount capable chassis. So, because you need to put it in the rack, you know, so you have to have a special case. And then you'll need rails to mount the chassis, and then your RAM can't just be typical RAM. Typically, it's like a RDIMM with a ECC, which is an error correcting memory. Okay, the last bit that's unique is the network interface card. So that's because like a server typically doesn't use Ethernet. Maybe there's some really small co-location that does still, but typically it's not Ethernet. Like you need fiber optic cable, like that's the key thing. So you need a network interface card that supports something like SFP. And so, all right, let's move forward. Okay, the rails, like, but just ask the colo provider, like, are the rack posts threaded or square hole? Just ask. Like simple, like once you do that, you can figure it out. It's not that hard, but just an annoyance. Okay, SFP, this is cool. Small form factor pluggable. So basically, it just can kind of slot into the network interface card, and you could even swap out between fiber optic and Ethernet. It's really cool. It's hot swappable. So just again, it goes back to asking your colo provider. So while rack use FP plus long range, it's kind of funny is when we started, we thought it was like short range. So we had to like swap out the module, but that's the good thing, is we had to only swap out the module and not the whole card. So that's one of the nice things about SFP. You can just swap out modules. So it just comes back to like checking with the colo provider what they want. All right, you've got the box. It's built. You've installed Ubuntu. You've even put cool stickers on it because you're cool. What do you do now? Okay, I got the answer. So you need to get SSH installed, and you just put your keys in the authorized keys directory, your public keys, not your private ones. You install OpenSSH server. You also install fail to ban because like you don't want someone from like North Korea just like repeatedly like hammering your SSH server. Not cool. Also need firewall rules. Okay. The colo provider gives you a static IP. Great. You assign it to the network interface. Then you also assign DNS server. That's all you need to do. Just very simple. ChatGPT can help if you're lost. Like literally was in the data center asking ChatGPT, like, hey, how do I assign static IP? That's what we're doing. But great, once you've done this, you can just SSH and then give your username and then the IP, and then boom, you're in. Your box is ready. Okay, so let's say you just were kind of forgetting a step while doing that, like the box is installed. It's really not an issue because colo provider, again, they'll just give you like a little cart with like a little monitor on it and keyboard. So if you screw up, it's no problem. Just plug the monitor and keyboard into your server, and you don't even have to have SSH. You just log in normally. And there's earplugs on this slide because, okay, like just really loud. Like it's hella loud in a co-location center because just every server has fans and it's just loud. You just bring earplugs. Okay, just one kind of dumb question is like, can you put a mini PC in the co-location center? And the answer is probably not because it comes down to like heat. Like if you look at this diagram, basically you have a cold aisle and then you have a hot aisle. So your fans on the server, that's going to take in air from the cold aisle, and then it's going to vent out the back. So with like mini PCs, you probably can't have the airflow necessary to do that. So that's the key thing, is that's one fundamental rule of co-location, is just making sure the airflow is correct. And the air will loop around. As you can see, the hot air rises, right? Hot air go up, and then it gets sucked back down, and then it goes under the floor, and then the fans in the front of your server will take it in again, and then put it out to the hot aisle, and then it goes up again. So just a loop. All right. So, okay, this is like the old school way. How do you manage these boxes, right? We have SSH access now, but what do you do next? And so the answer is just use Ansible, right? It's like the old school tool of like defining the box's state. Like you just write YAML files that are playbooks, and then you have an inventory file which defines your servers, and it only needs SSH and Python, so you don't even need an agent on the box. Like, easy. And it scales to like hundreds of servers, there's no issue. And for very advanced folks, you can just even put it in your GitHub CI/CD workflow. So like, you can have the CD step just trigger Ansible, and then that will deploy your repo, your Git repo to the box. And so it's all automated. That's what I did. It's just easy. Okay, so the revenge of the cloud, like, why bother doing this? Like, okay, you work at Google, I get it. Like, you make ungodly amounts of billions of dollars of revenue. So like, there's really no point for like maybe like 95% of the people here, or really just in the tech community. But it's just facts, right? Like, you want cheap box, gotta build it yourself, you know? But it's just not worth it in most cases. Like, okay, like SF Compute, I don't know if anybody's heard of that. They have H100s, H200s for like $130 an hour. So cheap. But it's the key thing is like, if you're using AWS, it's gonna charge you like an arm and a leg. All right. So why does backboost.ai need its own servers? So we sell AI training data, and we want to have queries where you can get the data that you want. Basically, we have an in-memory vector DB with 800 million vectors in it. And our relational queries is sometimes like 300K rows. And we're just a pre-seed startup, so like we're not going to rent an AWS box to do this. Okay, so let me give an example of how you could use Backboost in a near future. We haven't quite launched, but we're quite close. So what you do is you're trying to build an IKEA chatbot. And so the key thing is IKEA has 10,000 products, right? And so you're trying to build a fine tune of an LLM, right? That's your end goal here. And so what you could do is you could query every web document related to IKEA with our vector search. And then basically you generate synthetic Q&A pairs off all those documents. And then you just really have a good prompt so you can filter out like data that you don't want. And that's how you get your fine-tuned file. And so really my question to you guys is, do you really want to pay scale a lot of money if you're just a startup? You could just use my service for a lot cheaper. So that's my only one ask with this talk, is just talk to me if you need fine-tuning data. I might have you covered soon. All right, that's it, Q&A time.
Any questions?
Anyone?
So you mentioned like generating synthetic data for fine tuning, is that right? So
Yes.
how, like, what are the pros and cons of synthetic data versus like actual, real, like human generated testing data or fine tuned data?
I would say the synthetic data is just a lot cheaper, right? And if you're already using the existing web content, like it should be almost as good. And in the future, Backboost intends to just have like a quality score. So we would just have a human review when you have a low quality score.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So it sounds like you have a lot of pre-generated data, like you're generating data before anyone is looking for it. Do you have the ability to like take requests, or can people reach out and ask you to generate certain specific custom data for them?
So how it would work is essentially you'd grab websites that you want, and then you generate synthetic data off that. So there's always a context provided when you're generating the synthetic data. I hope that helps. Oh.
No, over there was someone.
Thank you. Could you explain in one sentence what backboost.ai does?
So we sell AI training data. That's the grandparents' explanation. The developer explanation, we provide an API so you can get the data that you want. You just query for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Does the co-location provider? Oh, sorry, did I cut in line there?
Is there two microphones? Okay. I really enjoyed your talk, and I admire your perseverance. My question is, who do you see as your main competitors right now?
Yeah, so I kind of see it as the classic data labeling providers, so like Scale, Snorkel, Surge. So I don't think they see what's coming. Like you can just give synthetic data. That's what I see.
Does the co-location provider make you pay more if you need like SOC 2 or HIPAA or like one of those enterprise certifications, or does that come out of the box?
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, WowRack is SOC 2 like compliant. Like you need a key card to access the facility, and each server has like a key. Like so you open up the cage, so it's no one can access your server. But I guess in terms of pricing, I'm not sure if they charge like extra for like say HIPAA. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask them.
Right over here, yeah. Sorry if this is like not a stupid question, but I work with a lot of healthcare data, and I was wondering, since you said your service is based off web queries, is that right? What about when the original data that you use to generate the synthetic data, what if that isn't easily accessible online?
Yeah, that's kind of like the future of Backboost. Like eventually we'll have like bespoke like custom data sets for that type of use case, but we're just starting out, we're just two people, like so our start is web data, like publicly available.
Got it. Thank you.